In today's world, data is the new gold. Data scientists unlock insights from raw information. They use statistical methods to analyze trends. Data analysts convert data into visual stories. By creating dashboards, they help organizations make informed decisions. Machine learning models can predict future outcomes. They identify patterns that aren't visible to the naked eye. Data cleaning ensures accuracy and analysis. Collaboration across departments enhances data insights. They utilize programming languages like Python and R for analysis. Cloud computing resources expand their capabilities. With big data, they tackle complex challenges across industries. Ethics in data science ensures responsible use of information. The future of data science looks bright with endless possibilities.
We are looking at structured query language, and our emphasis is on Microsoft Structured Query Language SQL database. Now the question is, why engage in SQL, and why also use Microsoft as a platform? Now we have a lot of platforms that are also into the use of structured query language. Some of them we include Postgres. Postgres is also um, a platform you can use to also do your structured query language. We have MySQL. MySQL is another one. We have the Microsoft one, and many more. There are plenty of them. We have what do you call it? MongoDB database. There are plenty, but the thing is that some of them are not free. You have to pay in order to use them, and because of it, the Microsoft becomes handy, because one is free to use. Once you are able to, though there are one that you can pay for. That one is the enterprise brand, but this one is good for beginners, is good for developers. The structured query language or the database is another form of a scenario where we have been able to kind of have a storehouse or a warehouse where data are stored, and those data can be called upon or called out for use in the future. Just think about it, like in a university where that maybe is about 200 years old, and this university happens to have a place where information about the past students have been stored. The student name, the courses they offered, their scores, and the lecturers and the hall. For instance, all these things that was used in to teach the student were actually recorded and kept. You see that it is possible to bring it up and also use it to maybe have a study about a particular phenomenon, and they can give you a good insight. That is important of database. Now, if data is not organized, you cannot be able to use it to draw insight or inference from it. So database is all about getting data and storing them safely and organize them in such a way that it can be called upon and used in the future for insight, and also for understanding of any phenomenon, and for business balance it can be used for business decision. That is all that is it for database. So when you hear the word database, it does not connote something different. It's all about where data are kept, stored and preserved, and also their integrity is also kept intact. Integrity means that the data that Mr. A was able to have access to, and the strength of that data can also be the same if Mr. B happens to also have access to the same data in a different time frame. So if data continue to change or the quality continue to be affected, then that data lacks integrity. So data must be able to have what? Integrity. So we are going to already we have instruction of how to download this Microsoft SQL database, and this graphical interface has been done. We have been able to download Microsoft interface. We have been able to bring them from the internet and download it to our system, and of course we are also making use of it. Now we also have instruction of how to download and install the Adventure Work database. Now you understand that there's a difference between the server and the database. The server is just like that body where this data is being hosted. Now the machine that enables you to host a system that you can be able to use to query your server is known as query your data is known as your server. Sometimes server, if you are looking at it from your local perspective, can be your laptop, because it is in your laptop you're able to install the machine in which database are hosted upon, and will begin to query to get results, or will begin to get inferences, or begin to get outcome from input. Now on the larger scale, we also have servers that are hosted in the cloud. You can hear about cloud computing. We started gradually, but as time goes on, we discover that we continue to move, even to the point that this thing we are doing becomes bigger than me. We begin to go to places that are beyond what we are seeing now. So we have Amazon, for instance. Amazon is a very, very large organization that have cloud computing system. So in the cloud computing system means that you have access from their interface to log on to a cloud where the whole system of server is hosted. When you get there, you determine the kind of server you want. You can decide to use the the laptop. Some of us are using HP, which are mostly hosted by Microsoft. We have Apple, we have Dell computer. All of them have different kind of tools that they use. You can set whatever you want to set in the cloud, the capacity and everything. That is a very, very big server. So it is under your manipulation, but you pay some money, or they can give you some little access. So these are the big servers. But for this class and for what we are doing, our laptop is our server, and it is with laptop we can able to manipulate and interface with the data and manipulate it to get our answer. So for Microsoft, because of the need for them to maintain their own market base or their own front end, they decided to do what? Provide us with a hypothetical database. Database, remember, is what we put on our server in order to get results. So server is nothing without database. You have server, yes. Server is just like you have a house. Having a house is not the same thing as having people being in the house. Server is just like you have a house. Now the database is that having people now occupying that house and making good use of it. So having said that, we'll go to introduction of this course. So we are introducing the course. We have said that database is different from what we have seen so far. We have been able to do some things. Yes, data has been used, but on this case now we are looking at data from an extensive perspective. an extensive angle in which we can able to go into a place or a system where data has been stored systematically and have been kept maybe over the years if you are looking at a live data. Now, if you want to look at the perspective of a live data, you think about a banking system. A banking system have what? Data that have to do what? Customers information. They have some sensitive information there and they have some non-sensitive information there. So you can have a customer, the bank will have your name, the bank will have your BVN, your bank verification identification number, the bank will have your signature, next of kin, among others, even the amount you have in bank. These are important data, sensitive in nature, but they are all what? Data, and they are stored somewhere. They are stored in database of the bank server system. And under data again, we can think about the national population database. Now, what do they do there? They have a lot of collection of data of people in a given country. And after it has been done, they don't come every day and begin to ask you to bring data. They go to the database and pick up those data, the ones what they need in order to do what? To conduct election. And for now, like for Nigeria owner, we don't have any access of removing people that have died. But as time will come, they will improve that data to do that. That is why you see it doesn't have an expiry date for now, because they don't have that capability. But the database is there. But discover that when you open your voters card, your voters population, the one of population is different from the one of voters card. Now let me look at the one of voters card. You can see that you're given a card. That card have maybe your name, some important code that is there, but it may be your date of birth and where you are voting from. But remember that there may be other important information that may not be on that card, but it is in the database. So it is people that need to know that must be given that card. Another one again is your name, national identification number. It has to do with, and if you are filling it, you see a lot of things that are there. But by the time they finish and give you a piece of paper or a card, it will only carry few. Even within the system, not everybody have access to such sensitive information, because if it is not safeguarded, I talked about integrity. People can use it to commit crime and commit offense, and it will be on the person that have the data. Then that data has lost integrity. So we'll have some level of security, which we'll get to when we look at the database proper. So the use of this is not overemphasized. So looking at the brief history, the history is mostly we don't concern ourselves with that, but just for the sake of knowing, we'll touch a little bit about it. How the idea of having a database, how it started and how it metamorphosized into what we have today. Before it don't used to be the database where we see today. That is not how it was. There was a lot of changes and a lot of input. Organization have to come in, standard and procedures were put up, all of them in the bid of making it more better or more accessible. And today we have what we call the relational database management system, and it's different from database management or better database management. Yes. So I don't want to dwell too much on that history, just for the knowing aspect. It is not properly on what we need to do as per technical people. Those histories are for historians, but maybe you can read about it, just have a brief, so that you can have a little idea about how database and storing of data started. Now you now ask yourself, what business do you need to, why going into database as a course? You see, it is very, very important for you to actually have this at the back of your mind. If you remember, there was a time I was teaching, I was telling you that you can actually integrate those data that are already stored in the database, and you can bring it direct into your tools of analysis. You can bring it into your Tableau or into your Power BI environment, or you can even bring it into your Python environment and continue to work. It is very important that you know that they are interrelated because of the way they have been structured. There are codes that you can actually use to bring in data. Now, there are people that their basic work is all about data management, and they are called database administrators. Their work is to ensure that the integrity of data is well respected, that data is secured and safe, and they also give out the required data as it is demanded, and they maintain the system. You have database operators. There are different important source of career that can emanate from interaction with database system. You can maybe try to maybe browse on them to see what and what is there. Now we also look at what we call the structure query language, or the structured database, the semi-structured database, and the unstructured database. Now, structure, this word that comes that you see here, structure, is a kind of a rigid environment in which data are kept in just like a box. What we are going to study, the database we are going to study, is a rigid kind of database, in the sense that we have our column and we have our row. Column and row in a table defines our data. That means you can be able to identify where a table is given, like some of the work we did when we are doing the Power Pivot in Excel. You see that we went to the Excel table, we extracted data from the SQL database, and we brought it into the Power Pivot environment, maintaining a kind of a table that shows us particular numbers of rows and their columns which are already been given. So any system that you see that the column and the rows are defined in a rigid order, it is known as a structured query language or structured database. Now, the semi-structured database is a modified kind of a database. Example of a semi-structured database can be maybe data you get from Facebook. It is not rigid like what you see in structured database. Some of the database we may encounter may not be structured, but for the Microsoft SQL, the database is structured. The column and the row are defined. So the relationship is what is in table A, what is in table B. Can you identify something that you can see in table A that is the same or have relationship with something in table B? That relationship is identifying a row or a column, one column relationship with another column in another table. That's what brings our two tables together for joining. This is the idea we have in this structured database. Now, something like a MongoDB database does not work with a full structured database or query system. It works with semi-structured. That means Even though we have row and column, the system has a way of picking what is common and what can be obtained. It may not necessarily be getting the relationship that are the same for two tables for it to be joined. It may not be the same, but the table can be joined. That is why semi-structure is different. If you look at the Apple database, it is the same thing. It operates on this idea of semi-structured database, just like the Facebook. And then we have the unstructured database. This one is rarely used, but database does not have structure, just like an amoeba that doesn't have shape. Anything goes. So most often what we see is structured database and semi-structured database. So when you want to understand the Microsoft database system, that means we have to go ahead to open our database. So let's continue. So this is Microsoft SQL Management Studio. So this studio is what you use to query data. When we say query data, doesn't mean that you have been asked to answer question and submit your report or the question you answer. It means asking or setting in motion a kind of code that will you input into a system in order to extract an output. That is the query. So when you are querying data, it means you are asking the data to give you something. And now, asking the data, the language you use and the way you code those language matters greatly. So if you know how to ask those questions, you can be able to get the right answer. But when you don't ask the question correctly, you will not get correct answer. Now, when you look at this studio, this is the sign of Microsoft server. And remember, when you are downloading the Microsoft server, you download both the server and the studio, so that you can have the server is at the background giving you what you want, but the studio is what you see at the front end, while server is at the back end doing the dirty job. So when you come to this, you see there's a file. When you open a file, it helps you to connect your object explorer. You can also disconnect. This is, you want to do a project, this is the room for the new project, or you want to, if there are new project or new file, you can also use the shortcut Control Shift N for new, or if it's a file, Control Alt N for file. Then you can also query with a current connection, or query with database engine, or with analysis, MDS query, any of them. They have their policy of how they operate. Then the next thing is you want to open a file, the project solution folder, amongst others. Whatever you see here is what can be done. You see, they look as if nothing, but when you bring a cursor, they will show that they are alive, which is active. Then they can also close your database from here. But because we are not engaging, that's why here it's not showing any life. You can save your file. You can even print it out. Remember, as I told you earlier, that SQL, Microsoft SQL, Excel, and the Power BI are all working hand in hand because they belong to one family. So you can exist here. Then the next one is edit. You can, from edit, you can go to all, or to your file, or recent file, or symbol, whatever you want to do. You can be able to do it through the edit. Find and replace, just like how to have in Excel. Quick find, quick replace, find in place. You can do all these things here. You can bookmark your work, you can enable the bookmark, among others. Then view, we have object explorer. You can use F8 in your cursor to do that. Object explorer detail, register server, solution, depending on what you want, because some of these things you don't even need them, because you know, as I said, this is a database engine, So it's the database administrator that sometimes they may need one or two of it. But we are coming there as a data analyst, we are coming there as a data scientist, we come to pick what we want to pick and we move away. But database management people go deeper into it. So this is SQL Server Profiler, database engine. This Azure. Azure is another tool that is managed by Microsoft. It's a very, very important tool, but I don't know much about it. Maybe you can read it up, or opportunity will come for us to explore it too. When we did it last in the class, they have to improve a lot of things there. Even entering it becomes problem. That's why I lost interest on that one. So you can migrate to Azure. You see the package that is there, depending on check update, import and export setting. Then your window, you want your system to be floating. Floating means that they can intertwine this interface and whatever you are doing if it's on floating. Just like when we are doing that table, we have ties that are floating and ties that are the ones that are tied as rigid. Floating, you can be able to put one into another. It's the same idea here. So you can hide things, but remember that some of these things you don't just go and touch, because by the time you touch them, coming out becomes a very big problem. You add and remove content among others. So this is what you see in your Microsoft SQL query engine. Then you can also this is the same thing for the new project. You see, you can open your file here. This is for save your work. You want to enter into a new query, the new query can come up. There's this database engine. All these ones were there in the when we are opening our file. Some of these may not come up because I've not been able to connect. Because if I've connected now, we can able to look deeper into some of the work there. But it's unfortunate that it refused me to actually connect. I don't know why that happened. But if I've connected, we can be able to the database engine. You can connect to database engine what you are doing, or to analysis, or to any of them. But this is where our work is. And if you are connecting here, the server name must be well written. The server name must be well written. Database engine. Okay. That's a local server. Okay, I think it will connect now. Let's try again to see if it will connect. So if it connects, then you will now have access. You see your database inscribed here. You pick your database, you're able to execute query and also understand some of the work. But as it's taking time, I doubt if it will connect. It is not connecting. I think I'll look at it. If it continues, I will have to download a new database.